Hello, and welcome to the Core Dog Experience here, talking Ohio State, college sports, and everything in between. Bringing it to you from a fan's point of view. So if you're checking me out for the first time, thank you. Please check out some of my other stuff. And if you are returning, thank you again for sticking with me and helping a brother grow this thing out. Hit that like, subscribe. Trying to grow. So let's get into it. Ohio State hosting Minnesota, night game at the Shoe. Good game. Did what we expect the number one team in the country to do against that type of opponent. Good opponent, but shouldn't have been any trouble. And the game played out like that. So it's good to see. Good to see the offense, which I know was a point of emphasis, is to get off to a fast start. A better start than what they did last week against Washington, where they sure had some issues offensively and on the special teams that led to that slow start. Not so much the case this game, which I think was what Ryan Day wanted to see. The offense did not get off to a slow start. The passing game, which has some folks wondering, yours truly here included, about some of the passing game and some of the lack of explosiveness in that. Did I say that right? The lack of explosive plays in the Washington game. You thought there would have been a little bit more given the type of coverage Washington was doing. So that was something they wanted to fix this game out, and boy, did they ever do that. In the defense, just dominant again. We're going to get into the defense. Let's focus a little bit more on the offense and what they did and what they accomplished this game against Minnesota. Again, they did not want to get off to a slow start. Fans been asking for it. We saw it a little bit against Grambling, but that's Grambling. We want to see the air game. We wanted to see Julian get back there and throw the rock. We wanted to see him air it out against a defense that wasn't Grambling. Let's just put it that way. A defense that can match up a little bit better with Ohio State, just talent-wise and personnel level. A defense that may have been more on the par with what Ohio State's going to see down the road. Julian, against that Texas game. I'm going to talk about Texas, but it's first start, so you're going to play conservative. Washington, first Big Ten road trip. Hostile environment, you're going to play somewhat conservative. All right, but you at home, night game, Minnesota, good team, not great team, decent defense. They had the 26th ranked pass defense, I think, coming into the game. So it's going to be a upgrade. And Julian Dunn, he got a little bit of experience now. So folks want to see him air it out, and he did just that. He aired it out. The offense opened it up, and Julian Sand had him a good game. 23-27, over 300 yards, 3 TDs, no interceptions. Could have had one. Dude dropped it. Let's just keeping it real. He tried to force one into Jeremiah, and the DB just dropped it. But hey, still counts as no interceptions. So good for Julian, and so just seeing him continue to grow, and the growth in Julian saying from game one to now, and I think moving forward now, another little test. I think he's passed, so he can and Ryan Day and Hartline will be more comfortable with him opening up even more, get more out of the passing game, which I think will open up the running game some, because let's face it, the running game was sort of stagnant. Minnesota has a decent run defense, and the running game didn't really get clicking until the second half. They have both pretty much bottled up, but once you get that passing game going the way they did this game, I think that will open up the running game. And again, Julian saying he made good reads, which is what you're looking for. Is he handling the ball, going to the right spot, save for that one bad pass where he tried to force it into Jeremiah. But other than that, your boy was on point, and they've already talked about how accurate he is. This game, no different. I said 23 for 27, 85.2% for the game. That's saying a lot. And he wasn't dinking and dunking like he did against Washington. He was going down the field often and a lot. And he was on target. You said he's accurate. Those downfield balls were just safe maybe for the one. That first deep ball, if he would have let Jeremiah just a little bit more, I don't think the DB would have been able to catch up to him. But, he's nitpicking. All the other downfield balls he was throwing was just on point. And to me, probably the best pass of the game where he stayed in the pocket and hit your boy Max Clare. Glad to see him getting utilized. But hit your boy Max Clare over the middle. I think that seam route was there all night, and he stuck in the pocket, knew the hit was coming, and still delivered a strike. To me, that was his best throw of the game because he stood in the thing, knew he was going to get hit, and he showed some toughness on that pass play to Max Clare. So, again, just the continued growth of Julian Sayin. And like I said, when he going to start getting some mentions is for the Osmond. For the Heisman, you know what I'm saying, trying to say. When he's going to start getting mentioned for some of these Heisman odds, because this has not been a stellar year for quarterbacks lists. Everyone they tried to anoint, they sort of fallen off. Time to get Julian's name mentioned in some of these Heisman odd predictions because he is leading the country. Leading the country in completion percentage. And I know that's not a sexy stat in terms of yardage and TDs thrown, but you complete 80.2% of your passes for the season. And, we talked about him dinking and dunking, which a lot of us think he's been doing. But you break down the numbers, and I know this last game may have elevated it somewhat because he was going deep often, but he's averaging over 10 yards per attempt, and that's third in the nation. Over 10 yards per attempt, and you still hitting on 80% of your stuff. Time to get your boy mentioned a little bit in these Heisman talks. But so again, Julian Sayin, just further validation that he was the right choice coming in. I don't think it really was a competition, but Ryan Day got played up. But like I said, Julian Sayin, he's looking to be more and more and more the real deal and the type of quarterback that can lead us to. That can lead Ohio State to another championship if things continue to go this well. But he was on, and he was on partly because Carnell Tate was on. They like I said at the end of the game was called the Carnell Tate game. His coming out party. If you wanna go there. But your boy had a game. 9 reception. Nearly over 180 yards receiving at the touchdown. Averaged over about 20 yards per catch. So he had a game. Again, the best wide receiver duo in the country. I don't care what anybody say. They're trying to pump up some of these other wide receiver rooms at the beginning of the season. Come on now. Come on. Carnell Tate will be a number 1 receiver on literally any one of these other teams in the top 5. That's why folks are trying to poach him during the spring. That's why folks are literally trying to poach him. But he would be wide receiver number 1 on any other team outside of Ohio State because Jeremiah Smith, he's that dude. And he's that. Everyone knows he's that dude, and he's not going. What's sad is he's not going to have the stats to back it up because of Carnell Tate first and foremost, and because teams are literally game planning to do whatever they can to stop Jeremiah. Going back to Carnell Tate, that's what Texas did in the playoffs. Carnell Tate had a big game in that game because Texas focused so much attention on Jeremiah Smith. Same thing with Minnesota. They focused so much attention on Jeremiah Smith, and it just left Carnell literally one-on-one. You're not covering Carnell Tate. His lone TD the corner was out there by himself because on that play, if you recall, yeah, they even showed it on the replay. They ran Jeremiah in motion, and literally Minnesota's whole defense shifted over. Linebackers, safeties, everyone shifted over, and you had your poor man out there on the island trying to cover Carnell Tate, and it was no contest. No contest. And Julian Sayed put it on him. Boom. Touchdown. It's just crazy how much attention Jeremiah Smith has. And again, mentioning the Heisman odds, your boys coming into the season that everyone was hyping up, they fallen off. Other quarterbacks, they trying to, like I said, elevate other quarterbacks, but this is the year, any year, that someone other than the quarterback should be winning the Heisman. And I'm glad Ryan Day is putting it out there. Jeremiah, everyone knows, is the best offensive player in college football this year. He's not going to have the stats to back it up because Ohio State's just loaded. And he has Carnell Tate opposite him, just to witness the Minnesota game and the stats Carnell Tate had. And we know Heisman, in a lot of instances, is stat-driven. And Jeremiah's not going to have the number. So, but we know who the best offensive player is. And I hope Julian and Ryan Day and Hartline don't get caught up trying to force-feed him the ball. Like I said, Julian could have had a pick. The guy just dropped it because he locked in on Jeremiah. I hope they don't do that. Trying to overemphasize Jeremiah is the best offensive player in the country this year, and he should be in the Heisman. I think right now he's standing at 4th or 5th, or wherever he's at is too low. He should be at the top. I'm just saying. I know Dante Moore's having a good year. Mateer was having him a good year, but he hurt. So it's wide open. Why not Jeremiah? Why not be the year you give this to someone other than a quarterback? Because the quarterbacks, they all right. They all right. they don't affect the games the way Jeremiah is, and they're probably going to try to pick Carson Beck up there now after his game. But to me, this is the year a quarterback should not win the Heisman. It should be Jeremiah Smith. He's the best offensive player going. You got whole defensive scheming to stop him, and they still can't do it for the most part. But the offense, I think they did what they wanted to do. You want to see a little bit more in the running game, but it's like that but. Yeah, but I mean they still had the three rushing touchdowns with the quarterback sneak, CJ getting his, and Bo getting his. Bo Jackson, he has firmly supplanted himself as the number one running back. I think he started the game over CJ this time out. So there is your offense moving forward. Bunch of underclassmen. Jeremiah Smith, Julian Saying, Bo Jackson. And we got him for another year, y'all. At least one more year. One more year. That's just wow. But he's your Bo Jackson, your number one running back. He's taking over for Donaldson, taking over for Peoples, and Peoples had them a good game. Yeah, maybe against some Minnesota's backups, but he had him a good game. James Peoples said, "I'm still here. I can still do a little something." He had him a nice little second half to James People, but the offense, they did what they needed to do, and I said but I got my own but moment because they seem to do this a lot. The short yardage situations, and they even brought up during the broadcast when Minnesota had a chance to go think, why not just do the quarterback sneak? Ohio State did it. Julian got the first down, but damn it, Ryan Day had called a timeout. They try to get too cute sometimes for their own good. Just run the quarterback sneak. And y'all know what it is I'm talking about. They could have went in at the half up 28 probably to 3 instead of called the timeout. Had to do fourth down all over again. Lincoln comes in and he stumbles. They got punt. I mean, just do the quarterback sneak. And I think they self-corrected later on. They just let Lincoln do the quarterback sneak in the goal line to take it in. Just that's all you had to do. Why try to get cute with it? Just do the quarterback sneak, get the first down, get you some more downs. I just don't understand that philosophy. Ohio State, any other team, got a chance to get just run the quarterback sneak. Why are you lining up in shotgun? Especially if you, like the guy who pointed out, Minnesota, 4th and short. The Ohio State, we're gonna talk about the defense, but they got stuff. 4th and short. In a hostile environment, you got to do the silent count so the defense know when you're going to snap the ball, and then it makes no sense. I just will never understand that philosophy of lining up shotgun or whatever. I mean, it's 4th and short, and especially if you're on the road. I don't get it. I think they get too cute. Just go up there, run the quarterback sneak, get your first down. Anyway. That's my but moment for the offense. Do a quarterback sneak. Defense. It's like, what else can you say about the defense at this point? Is it better than last year's defense? Like I said, it's getting there, because at the end of the season last year, that defense was just lights out, and this defense, if they're not already there, they are approaching it rapidly. Again, so Texas, we've seen what they are offensively. They're not all that. Grambling, Ohio, okay. But then you go on the road to Washington and do what you did to Washington. Then you come back, and Minnesota has them a good little passing game, good little running game. And you end up doing to them what you did when it was all said and done. Now, granted, Minnesota, they got off to their opening drive. They go 66 yards on their first drive. Had to settle for the field goal because, once again, the defense bowled up in the red zone. I just never that red zone defense has just been the accolades for this red zone defense has been on point. You get into that red zone, you hit that 20 yards trying to go in, it's going to be hard as hell. You better off trying to snap the ball from the 25 and try to go over the top. But when you get in that red zone and try to do something against this defense so far this season, it just hasn't worked out at all. And I said, Minnesota opening drive, they go literally right down the field. 66 yards when they first drive, get into the red zone, stall out. Settle for the field goal. You think, okay, Minnesota, they're going to give our defense some problems for this game. Nope. Matt Trisha said, I see you. I spot you 66 yards. We're going to handle that the rest of the game. The rest of the game, they got 96 yards of offense for the rest of the game. 66 yards they first drive, 96 yards the rest of the game. That's saying something. That's just lockdown defense. Ain't no other way to say it. And along the way, they stopped it. They had another. They stuffed Washington. They stuffed Minnesota on the 4th and short. Again, just like short yardage situations, red zone situations. They've been stellar so far. At some point, someone's going to do it. I keep saying someone's going to do it. But kudos so far to them. It's just, the percentages are on the offensive side for the rest of the season. Someone's going to break through in the red zone, but not this time. Like for Minnesota, they hadn't given up a red zone rushing touchdown all season. Ohio State got 3 of them. So I'm just saying, it's going to happen at some point. Hope not, but it is. But the red zone defense just been outstanding. But even with the defense, even with the performance, you got that but crowd. But they ain't get no sacks. Did you not hear what I just said? They gave up 66 yards on the first drive, 96 yards the rest of the game. Doesn't matter if they get a sack or not, if they pressure the hell out of QB who was on point. that first drive, but he was under such duress the rest of the game that he couldn't plant his feet, couldn't get receivers weren't getting open. You don't always need the sacks if you can disrupt the passing game. When Ohio State disrupted the passing game, so would have been nice to get a sack, INT, some turnovers, of course. I mean, the turnover on downs, did that count as the turnover? In a way, yes, but okay, they didn't get the sack in this game. I don't know if that cause for concern, maybe. I don't know, but if you hold a team to under 200 yards total offense for a whole game, I don't know. I'm just, again, nitpicking. Nitpicking. Stats for the whole game, like I said. Whole game, Minnesota over 160 yards for the whole game. They only had 68 rushing yards. 2.7 yards per rush. Passing yard, 94 passing yards. Again, you only get 94 yards through the air. You may not be getting the sack, but you are harassing the hell out of the quarterback. So again, just the defensive prowess and what they've done has just been amazing to this point of the season. 25 points all year through five. Just let that sink. 25 points through 5 games, or 25, 26, whatever. It's under 30 points through 5 games. You know how they're looking good. They are looking good. Looked every bit as the number 1 team in the nation, and I still don't think they're as good as they can get. You just got the running game going. You got your number 1 running back now. They show now they can open it up when they need to. They show now their special teams. They can throw some little stuff in there in special teams. You got to think about, because who saw that coming? Who saw that coming? And if Lorenzo had a little more giddy up, he probably would have scored. but they ran him down. But that was a cool little play, worked to perfection. It was well executed. So that was just something else for folks to think about for the rest of the season. Ohio State got that in their back pocket. You just can't go laser in on Brandon Ennis, because he might just throw it. He might throw it across the field. So I was a good little switch up for the special teams to see that. Would it like to see Jaden hit that 53-yarder? Because I don't know when the last time an Ohio State kicker has made a field goal over 50 yards. If y'all know, please drop it in comments. Let me know, because I can't remember. He had the distance. He was a little wide left. Little wide to the left. But other than that, special team was on point. I'm glad they gave him the chance to do it, too. Because you might just need a 50-yard field goal before the season's out. And he's shown he got the leg. Now you just gotta get a little more accurate with it. But other than that, just it's very little to complain about, and stuff it's just nitpicky stuff here and there. So offensively, they were on point. I think they accomplished what they wanted to accomplish, and defensively, again, they were just on point. They're going to get tested some against Illinois and Luke Altmaier next week, but we'll see. We thought Washington was going to test them, and they didn't. And for all intents and purposes, Illinois, they got a good throwing game. Altmaier can throw the ball. They got a good running game, so it'll be another test for the defense. But to wrap up, Ohio State did what they need to do against the type of opponent they were facing. Again, I don't think they've done anything to not remain as the number 1 team in the nation. Because following some of the other games we're gonna talk about briefly, you're gonna have some folks wanting to move some teams up, drop some teams back, but I think Ohio State's position should be firm on where it is. So, other games. Now, I didn't think I was going to have to talk about this game. But then when you actually watch the game and then the stores start popping up, I'm like, what the hell going on out there in Pasadena? What going on in Pasadena? I wasn't going. That game was not on the radar. Penn State going out to UCLA. Good bounce back game for them. That's the type of opponent you want following the type of gut wrenching loss you had. just the week before, just last week. This is the type of opponent you couldn't have set up any better given the outcome of the Oregon Penn State game. This is the type of opponent you want. You want a team that can't beat UNLV. You want a team that gets dominated by New Mexico. You want a team that loses to Northwestern. This was perfect, the perfect opponent for Penn State following their loss to Oregon. And dang it, what go out and happen? They go out and lose to UCLA, the same UCLA team that just lost to UNLV, New Mexico, Northwestern. But you can't beat these guys. You can't beat UCLA, and it wasn't even that close in the first half. They were down 27-7 before you got blanked. You never thought that Penn State and their defensive coordinator had never saw a mobile quarterback. You would have thought their defensive coordinator would have been better prepared to play someone like Nico. You would have thought, especially since he played him not that long ago, and he put on a clinic on how to stop Nico. Jim, yeah, you know I'm talking about Jim Knowles. You know I'm talking about Jim Knowles. Defensive coordinator, Penn State. Now, some people are going to rip him for going to Penn State. Whatever went down between him and Ryan Day, Ohio State, I don't know. Don't care. You know, he did what he felt was best for him. Chance to go back to his alma mater or whatever Penn State relationship he had with Penn State. But he went back, you know, and given the stuff he did on his final year at Ohio State in that defense, you thought they would have been better prepared to handle a mobile quarterback. Especially seeing all the stuff, all the people Penn State had coming back. You would have thought it was on the personnel was on par with Ohio State, right? Nico lit him up. We put on Ohio State just put on a clinic against with Damon Miller, Desmond, the Washington quarterback. Y'all know who I'm talking about. Ohio State put on a clinic on how to stop or maintain or contain a mobile quarterback. Like I said, Jim Knowles faced Nico last year and pretty much held him unwrapped, save for maybe one drive. But other than that, he held him locked down. What the hell happened? Because I watched some of that game and they just could not stop Nico. Every time he dropped back, he was a second coming of Vince Young. He was just running up and down the field against Penn State's vaunted defense. They had no answer for him. You gave up, I just mentioned how much Ohio State, 25 points all year. Penn State's vaunted defense, all those returners, gave up 27 points to UCLA in the first half alone. That was the most thing. And you thought fans was on James Franklin for losing the whiteout game, big game against Oregon. That don't compare to what he getting ripped for now, losing to UCLA. I just no explanation whatsoever. That's just ouch. Oh man. Other games, Florida upsets Texas, but was that an upset? I think people were picking that game for Florida anyway because Texas has not looked good. I put a lot of this on. They anointed Texas because of Arch Manning. ESPN, y'all know, Paul Feinbaum. Arch Manning was the second coming. It ain't really played out that way. There's a reason why, like I said it before, why Quinn Ewers was starting over Arch Manning. Sark knew it. The other folks didn't know it. They got caught up with the name on the back of the jersey. Manning. That's all they saw. It ain't no fault of Arch Manning. He didn't anoint himself. It's all the pundits anointing him. But Texas does not look good offensively, and what's worse, they're starting to look bad on defense. They couldn't stop Florida's running game before Florida ran up and down the field on them. They ain't look good. Other games, and does that hurt? I talk folks wanting to move Miami up. The Texas thing. Our Texas over our Ohio State's victory over Texas. That's going to take a hit. to say the least. That's going to take a hit because they have not looked good. They have not looked good since that since they lost to Ohio State. Like I said, Bama, they get the revenge on Vandy, and who knows if Diego doesn't fumble in the red zone, Vanderbilt may go up 14-0 on them. But they couldn't stop Bama's passing game that whole game. So Bama gets their revenge. So again, they're going to continue to move up because that's a win over another ranked opponent, which I do think Vandy deserve to be ranked. They're a good team. The big one everyone was talking about, Miami and Florida State. Why? I don't know. Especially when Florida State lost to Virginia. That sort of took some of the luster off that game. But now Miami goes in there and beats them up pretty easily. So as you can have folks wanting to, all the, I don't want to say anti-Ohio State people at ESPN who don't want to see Big Ten at the top of the polls. Let's just put it out there. They're going to want to put Miami at the top of the polls because now, technically, when they played these teams, they got 3 wins over teams who are ranked when they both stepped on the field, being South Florida, Notre Dame, and now Florida State. They the champions of Florida, for all intents and purposes. But let's say South Florida, you want to, okay, I don't know. Florida State, yeah, they got their hype off. They went over Alabama. We give you that, Florida State. But this is still a team that was 2-10 just last year. They had a wave of enthusiasm going against Bama and trying to back up what Tommy was saying about what they were going to do to Bama, and they backed it up. I think Bama's found their footing. If that game were to be played now, I don't think they beat Bama. But they did at the time, so you can't. Ain't no do-overs. It is what it is. But they're still 2-10 last year. So, you take it for what it's worth. Miami good. I ain't saying Miami ain't good, but folks wanting to elevate them over Ohio State, especially after what Ohio State just did. I think that's just going to be hard. They may want to put them over Oregon because Oregon's best win to date was Penn State. So folks are going to want to move Miami up and move some folks down. And so Oregon didn't play this week, so they have nothing to go on. They do got Indiana coming up. That should be an interesting one. But we'll see how the polls are going to play out. I don't think there's going to be much movement in the AP and coaches poll because it's hard to move teams down, especially when you're on the bye week, and especially when you put up 42 points against your opponent and you shut them down. Basically, you whack what Ohio State did to Minnesota. Cincinnati hands. Speaking of Ohio teams, Cincinnati hands Iowa State its first loss of the season. Kudos to the Bearcats. So that means Texas Tech in the Big 12, they are rolling along, and this is the true testament. I said it before, true testament of if NIL money can buy you a championship. Because there's a team like Texas Tech is where you'll be able to see that. Because when's the last time Texas Tech has been relevant? I can't remember. But if they also become relevant now because of the money they spending, and we know what directly, they took one of the offensive tackles that was supposedly on his way to Ohio State, was it Ojo or whoever it was, and Texas Tech outbidded Ohio State for him, for lack of better terms. We're going to see if the NIL can buy a championship, because that's what Texas Tech is looking like. Like, there are different ways to do the portal stuff. Ohio State uses to get pieces in and where we might be weak. Texas Tech, they go down buying them whole rosters. And so far, it is paying off. So we're going to see the Big 12, let's say, is the down year for the Big 12. Iowa State might be the only team that can beat them. And like I said, they just lost to Cincy. So it's going to be interesting to see this Texas Tech thing play out in the NIL money, because that's the test right there. Texas Tech, big time program using NIL money. Yeah, to me that's not as big of a deal, because they were already doing it to some extent. But Texas Tech, yeah, they ain't considered a big time program. They trying to buy their way into it. So this is why it's interesting to see how the Texas Tech stuff plays out the rest of the year. Can they buy them a championship on the football field? Speaking of resumes and stuff, Washington. Speaking of Washington, they go on the road and beat and defeat. Spotted Maryland 20 points. Came back and beat Maryland 24-20, who was undefeated. So again, with Texas going down, this if Washington can keep it going, this again will look good for Ohio State moving forward. So just stuff like that to keep your eyes on. Like I said, coming up next week, the battle for the Illabuck. When's the last time Ohio State and Illinois hooked up? It's been a while. We'll try to get into that later on. But that's what's next up for Ohio State, the battle for the Illabuck. And again, another test for our defense to see how they can hold up. So what are your thoughts on this week? Is this defense already better than last year's defense? For all the flack Matt Patricia got, is he an upgrade over Jim Knowles? I mean, let's go ahead. It took Knowles a couple seasons to get the Ohio State defense to where it was, but that was not a good look in that Penn State game. And then and James Franklin again. I just don't know. We have a repeat down the road. That's now I want to. They ain't going to jump too far ahead. So, just what are your thoughts on how these games played out? Texas Tech NIL. Can you buy yourself a championship? Julian saying it's the time for him to get mentioned, and is this the year for someone other than the quarterback to win it? And I know that Travis Hunter did it. He was playing the both ways angles or and stuff, but Jeremiah, pure wide receiver. When's the last time just a pure wide receiver has won that thing? Was it Devontae Smith? Maybe I can't. I think it was him. I think so. But he had the gaudy stats, which Jeremiah may not have. But just give me your thoughts in the comments on some of this stuff. Elite defense, Ohio State, Julian saying, just let me know. And get ready for the Illabuck battle. And until next time, OHIO, go Bucks, I'm out.